This conference will now be recorded.
Let me write few points related to SAP FICO interview preparation. Okay, what exactly we need to do with respect to your interview preparation? So point number one, your experience. First point we need to consider is your experience, how we are getting into the market, whether we are getting into the market with an experience or as a fresher. Based on that, you need to decide your resume. Based on the experience, we need to decide on our resume whether we have prepared our resume or not. When you're preparing your resume, we need to make certain points into the consideration. Point number three, current organization. So what is the current organization that we are going to project, which we are going to show in our resume? The reason why I'm writing this point is sometimes we will be projecting some different company than where we actually worked. Sometimes we will be mentioning the company where we actually worked. There are two different reasons. So whatever is the situation, whether you are going ahead with your actual company or you're projecting some other company, we need to make sure you are clear with the company name that you are going to project in your profile as your current organization or as your current employer. Point number four, projects. Based on the experience, you need to put number of projects. Let's say if you're showing around 3 years of experience or 4 years of experience, you should put minimum 3 to 4 projects. Out of your 3 to 4 projects, you need to ensure implementation and support are mandatory, and rollout is optional. Rollout and then migration is optional, but your profile or your projects must include at least implementation and support project as mandatory. Projects related to rollout, project related to migration is optional. After that, you need to know your roles and responsibilities in the projects. What was your role and what was your responsibility in the project? Now, these points you need to make sure that you are personalizing with respect to your experience, you are personalizing with respect to your resume, you are personalizing with respect to your projects that you have listed on your resume. Anything which is not there on your resume, anything that you're preparing out of your resume, which is additional, but make sure whatever the information that you're projecting, that you're showcasing on your resume, you must be familiar with it. If you do not know anything about any particular topic, it is always better you do not mention that topic or those points in your resume. Reason why I'm saying this is some of the people, what they do, just because for the reason that they are not getting a calls in the market, they try to add a different points. Somebody will tell you that you put controlling, you will get lot of calls. You put product costing, you will get calls. You add idoc, you will get calls. You add a DME, you will get calls. You add implementation project, you add something else, you will get the calls. By listening to different points, different views from the different people, we tend to change our resume left and right. At the end, what will happen, we will lose the control over our resume. Whatever the points we have listed in our resume, we will not be aware of. So that should never be the situation. Make sure whatever the points you are updating on your resume, you are aware of it. Anything which you are not aware, please make sure you do not put that point on your resume. So if you feel that if I do not put certain points, you will not be able to receive any calls, or profile shortlisting may be a little tricky, difficult part, know those areas which are mandatory, which you must input in your resume as 3-year experienced candidate or 4-year experienced candidate. First, know about those points at least a little, so that you will be able to talk basics about those topics. Accordingly, you will be able to make your profile, and even if somebody is asking you any question, it's easy for us to answer. Tomorrow, if somebody is asking us a question which is part of our resume and we are unable to answer, they might openly say on our face, but this point is there in your resume. You mentioned that in your implementation project, you worked on asset accounting. Now you're telling you have no good experience on asset accounting. So these kind of contradictions should not come. Somebody is asking a question, but you are telling, no, I have no experience on it, I did not work on it, but these points are present in your resume. This is quite common mistake most of the people will do, which you are not supposed to do. There is a topic which you are not aware of, but make sure do not include this topic on your resume, no matter what. Tomorrow, if somebody is putting a cross question, if you have not worked on it, if you are not aware of it, why did you mention this point, or why did you write this topic on your resume? For which, if you are not able to answer upfront, it will lead to a rejection, because it gives a negative impression that you do not even know what areas you worked on and what points you have mentioned on your resume. Okay, roles and responsibilities related to projects that we worked, we must be mentioning on the resume. After that, whatever the points, whatever the information that you have on your resume, make sure you list it out on a piece of paper or somewhere you write down. Let's say I'll say my name is Ajay, and I'm saying I have around 4.6 years of experience, and my current organization, I would say ABC SAP Consulting Private Limited. From when to when I'm working in this organization, let's say from I'm mentioning 4.6 years. If I consider 4.6 years, if I go back, let's say somewhere around January 2000, if I three January 2017 till date. If I'm mentioning that my current organization is ABC SAP Consulting Private Limited, I am working in this organization from Jan 2017 till date, and I need to list out my projects. Let's say from this I need to put project 1, project 2, project 3. Let's say I am going ahead with 3 projects. If I assume that I will proceed with the 3 projects, I need to mention what is my project number 1, project number 2, project number 3. When you are talking about project 1, 2, 3, it is always latest to oldest, which means the current project should always be mentioned at the beginning and the old project should always be mentioned at the end. Let's say currently I am working on support. Let's say this is my support project. In middle, I may say that I worked on implementation project. At the beginning, I will tell I worked on support project. Now, my experience, what I am showing is 4.6 years. You need to make sure these 3 project duration is split according to your experience. 4.6 years must be broken down into these 3 projects. I would say I joined in the year 2017, January month. I would say I started working on a project probably from March 2017 to, I would say, something like June 2019. I'll say I was working in the support project from March 2017 till June 2019. Now, after this, I need to talk about my implementation project. The moment I completed my project in June, let's say 1 month, I have no project, I was on bench. I may talk about from July 2019 to, I would say, August 2020. This I will say that I was part of implementation. After that, I will say, again, I will mention that November 2020 till date. I am working for another support project. For implementation, you need to be very specific with the dates because implementation happens on a specific time interval. You should not put whatever the duration that you want for your implementation, but for your support, it's an ongoing process. 365 days in a year, the support project is ongoing. You can pick any duration. And what client name you're mentioning and all is again your choice. So there are different ways which I will be discussing offline, not in the recording. Okay, so these projects, how you will put and all, we will talk later on. Whatever the client name that you are talking about, let's say you're talking about support project. In this support project, you must know the client name. So next thing I put client names and locations. This is very, very important. You must know the client name at the same time your client location. If I'm talking about client one, let's say I'll say client A. Second one I'll put client B. I'm simply representing project one is client A, project two is client B, project three is my client C. Let's say this is your client name and this is the location. If I say this is my Indian client, this I would say US client, this I will say again India client, or I will say Singapore client. Okay, client name you must be aware and client location you must be aware. If you're talking about client location as India, what are the localization objects? What are the country specific points related to this country? If you're talking about India, you must represent GST and TDS and asset accounting, fixed assets and reports. If there are any other reports, these areas you must focus, because they might ask you the moment you tell that you worked for any Indian project, Indian client, they might put a question, do you have experience or have you worked on GST or TDS or fixed assets or any other reports which are country specific? Whether you worked on it or you have not worked on it, it is always a secondary. Make sure you gather this information so that if somebody is putting a question, you are in a position to answer at least in a convincing way. Similarly, US. Here also the same thing. If you're talking about US is your client, you must know the taxation. In short, in US, you will have something called taxation based on jurisdiction. And similarly, fixed assets and any reports which are specifically related to US. Similarly, Singapore. Here also you need to talk about taxation, fixed assets, and then any specific reports that you worked for Singapore client specific or Singapore country specific. These are all the points that you must work out based on your resume. This is not something that you prepare generically for your resume. This is your pure personalized content that you need to extract from your resume, because this information when you are explaining about yourself, when you are introducing yourself, will be validated, will be checked. Because when you're talking about yourself, or when I'm explaining, let's say that I'm giving my interview, you're taking my interview. While I am talking about myself in the interview, what you will be doing, you will be going through my resume, or you will just have a look at my resume. Now if you find that whatever I am talking is part of the resume, you will be fine with it. By any chance, if you feel that I am talking something, I'm talking about a client, I'm talking about durations, but these client names, these durations are not matching with my resume, this is quite common. Because most of the times what people will do, they do not focus on what is there on the resume, which company we are projecting experience for, and in which client we are showing that we have implemented or we were part of any support or any implementation, duration of your project, from when to when you were part of this project, what was your role and what was your responsibility. In your, let's say in one of the support project, assuming that I have mentioned a responsibility called conducted user training. I would mention that let's say that in one of my support projects, I've mentioned that provided trainings to the users or conducted user training. Then you may get a question, can you tell me what exactly you did in your user training sessions? How did you conduct the user training? On what topics, on what areas you conducted the user training? What was the mode of training? Then if you do not have any answer for this on the spot, then it is clearly understood that you are not aware of what you have done on your previous assignment. You cannot say I forgot, you cannot say I do not know. You must talk, you must give a convincing answer. Even if they put any cross question, make sure you are in a position to answer and convince them. We're talking about user training provided or conducted training sessions to the end user. What trainings you have given to the end user? If you're talking about you have provided a training on asset accounting, what exactly you did training? How did you train the asset accounting to the users? Then you need to have some answer. What did you train? We're talking about I showed them how to create chart of account, how to create chart of depreciation, how to create a depreciation areas, how to create a depreciation keys. Then you're talking about a training related to configuration, right? Because the moment you start talking about something, unconsciously we will end up talking configuration. This is not something that you talk intentionally. This comes out of your mind unintentionally. You tend to talk about configurations, which will create a big problem wherever you talk, wherever you go. You will face a lot of problems if you are loading only configurations in your mind. Because to the end user, no consultant will explain about the configuration. Now, out of a flow, we are talking about configuration. Then it is clearly evident that you have not worked on any SAP project. Right? It is not related to your SAP practice. This is generic content. This is generic point related to your interview preparation. The way you're talking, the way you're explaining, the way you're convincing the other person must be logical, must be convincing enough. Otherwise, these points will lead to rejection, not your SAP knowledge. You will be talking right configuration, you will be explaining properly when it comes to SAP, but when it comes to generic information, you may be committing certain simple, silly mistakes which will cost you a lot. Cost of these silly mistakes is losing an opportunity. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very conscious on these areas, because when it is coming to any topic related to SAP FICO, let's say I'm asking about explain me asset accounting, or explain me about taxation, explain me about any other point, any other topic. Obviously, you will talk something about it because you would have practiced, you would have heard, configured these points sometime or the other time during your tenure of practice preparation. Automatically, you will talk something about it. But what if questions are beyond your configuration, questions are beyond your SAP FICO course content? In general, the generalized topics related to SAP FICO consultant. So that is where most of us will go wrong. Most of us will get confused. We will go blank all of a sudden. We do not know what to answer, what to explain. So these are situations we should not face. Let's say I am talking about a support project. If I'm talking about a support project, now according to this, if I'm talking about I am currently working for a client, project one, this is my support project. I am supporting this client from November 2020 till date. From November 2020. Currently also I am supporting the same client. It's been around 2 years, 2.5 years. I'm still with the same client for the support project. Now they might put a question, what can you tell me some of the incidents that you resolved recently? You must have certain support tickets. You must have certain support incidents with you ready-made handy, which are not Google specific. Because first thing that we do when it comes to your support tickets and all, we end up Googling SAP support tickets. So whatever the support tickets that you're talking about, make sure these are not Google specific. In general, the simple ones. Okay, user created GL account, he forgot to enable this one, or line item report is not displaying this. These kind of a basic points you should not talk. Okay, you should talk about certain incidents which will make some logical meaning. Okay, this could be a valid support ticket. This is a possible incident, possible ticket that you can get when you're working in a project. Otherwise, the way you talk about a support ticket, the kind of issues that you talk about will reveal that you have not worked anywhere. So these opinions we should not create by explaining or by talking about certain basic simple points. So you must have a list of at least 5 valid support tickets which everybody will accept. You should have at least 5 support tickets which everybody will accept. You don't need to go for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, not required. Remember, only 5 support tickets which are valid, which the other person will accept along with the solution. How did you receive this support ticket? If you received this through email, fine. If you received this through any ticketing tool, through which ticketing tool you received the support ticket? Okay, how did you resolve this support incident or ticket? Okay, so what was the priority of this ticket? Is this high priority ticket, low priority ticket, or medium priority ticket, or very high priority ticket? And what is this service level agreement or SLA or timeline for this ticket? The moment you receive a ticket, what will you do? So who will assign the ticket to you? Is it something that you are directly getting assigned to yourself, or is there somebody who is assigning the ticket to you? How do you close a ticket? You received a ticket and then you provided the resolution or solution for it. How you will close the ticket? In a month, on an average, how many tickets you will close? Can you tell me how many tickets you closed in the last month? Can you tell me 2 tickets that you worked on in the last month? Then if you are thinking for these kind of questions, and when you're telling that you're currently working as a FICO consultant, you have XYZ years of experience, and then if you are thinking for these kind of questions, it is clearly evident you have not worked on SAP FICO. You're not getting a caught based on your SAP FICO configuration knowledge. Apart from configuration, whatever is there, that is where everybody will get caught. When it comes to configuration, everybody will win that race because you're all loading fully configuration content on your mindset. But since you're loading complete configuration in your mind, you are not even aware of what exactly we will do apart from config. I'll ask you a simple question. Can you tell me how many tickets you're currently working on? Now you're telling that you're currently working. You're employed as a FICO consultant now. I'm asking you, tell me how many tickets you are currently there in your basket, in your bucket. You have no answer. You are unable to answer me for these kind of questions, which will give me a clear indication that something is wrong. When you know that you are showing some experience, your current project is a support. In support project, you will be working on support ticket. Now, if somebody is asking you what tickets you are currently working on, you have a question mark. When somebody is asking you, can you tell me some support tickets which you resolved earlier? A question mark. Even if you tell the support tickets, they sound very simple. The basic errors, basic things we will be talking about. So these mistakes, these are all silly mistakes which we will never realize. Okay, these points you should consider. And when you're talking about implementation project, when you're talking about implementation project, you need to be very specific which version of SAP that you were part of, whether this is an implementation related to SAP ECC or SAP S4HANA. If it is related to SAP ECC, what is your project duration? Okay, whether you did project from 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, depending on the version, depending on the year in which you're saying that you were part of an implementation project, accordingly you decide whether to talk about ECC SAP implementation or S4HANA SAP implementation. If you're talking about ECC SAP implementation, or if you're talking about S4HANA SAP implementation, make sure the points that you're talking are valid, the points that you're talking are accepted or convincing enough to the other person. Let's say I'm talking about an implementation project related to ECC. Then you may get another question, which methodology you have adopted for your implementation. Now I am talking about ECC implementation. ECC implementation will always happen based on ASAP methodology. Accelerated SAP methodology is used for ECC implementation. On the other hand, if you're talking about S4HANA implementation, if somebody is asking you which methodology you have adopted for your implementation project, make sure you're talking about Activate methodology. For ECC project, ASAP methodology. For S4HANA projects, it is Activate methodology. Now, when you're talking about these project methodologies, one is your ASAP, the other one is Activate. Make sure you are aware of the different stages within Activate, different stages within ASAP. Let's say if you're talking about ASAP methodology, you may be having 5 stages: project preparation, business blueprint, realization, final preparation, go live and support. On the other side, if you're talking about Activate, you may be having 5 or 6 again, right? Discover, prepare, realize, all these kind of things. Deploy, run, these kind of stages will be there. In each of these stages, what exactly is your role, what was your contribution in the project, they will specifically ask you. Can you tell me from which stage or at what level you were involved in the project, what exactly is your contribution in your project? If you say that I was there in the project from the realization phase, then your resume is talking about prepared business blueprint, then they might put a question: were you part of business blueprinting? You say no. Then why did you mention business blueprint on your resume for this project? Then you will go silent all of a sudden. Then you will start saying, actually I forgot to delete this. Some answer you will tell which is irrelevant to that situation, right? These kind of a simple mistakes we should not do. We will simply say that no, I was not part of a blueprinting, I was not part of requirement gathering sessions. But in your resume under your implementation project for a particular client, you are telling involved in the requirement gathering sessions, prepared business blueprint, all these things you have clearly mentioned on your resume against your implementation project. When I put a question, you are telling you were not part of business blueprinting. Then if I put a cross question, if you were not part of a blueprinting, why did you mention in your resume? Now, for these kind of questions, we will not have any convincing answer. When you get these kind of questions, if you are unable to answer these kind of questions, be prepared that you are rejected. Upfront rejected, because you do not even know what is there in your resume. You are telling me that I am not aware of it indirectly. You are telling you did not work on these areas, but your resume is telling that you worked on everything. Considering our level of experience, if you consider up to 5 years of experience, in short, 0 to 4 plus, you will not be working on everything in the implementation project. You will be working on selected areas only. Be very open that these are the areas that you worked on the business, on the implementation project. You will not be part of business blueprinting, you will not be part of project preparation. Even if you were part of it, tell that you were part of the discussions, you were part of the business blueprinting stage, but you did not prepare it, your senior consultants or your lead consultant prepared it. And then you will talk about, I did configurations. Which configurations you did? Then we will tell I created company code, chart of account, fiscal year, posting period, variant. This is all part of your baseline configuration. You are supposed to talk about the configurations apart from baseline. This is anyways needed. Apart from baseline, what else you configured? Let's say I configured automatic payment program, I configured bank reconciliation, I configured taxation, I configured integrations, I configured, let's say, taxation or assessment distribution cycles, cost center accounting, internal order, AUC process. These kind of points you need to specifically mention if you're talking about implementation. Again, not all the topics. Take maybe 3, 4, or 5 areas. Let's say you worked on AP config, AR config, APP, and then you configured Dunning. You developed some smart forms, you worked on certain rise of objects, mention 2, 3 rise of objects that you were part of, you prepared functional specifications. These kind of points you include. And then they might ask, what was your contribution in this implementation project? Apart from the config, talk about you were part of the training sessions, you have conducted user training, in which you have given the training sessions on some areas that you are aware of. Let's say you have provided a training on GL module, AP module, AR module, or taxation reports. Similarly, you were part of the testing. Unit testing, you did it. Tell that you did testing on these areas, not complete areas, because you will not be testing a complete all alone. There will be other consultants who is testing along with you, even in FICO. So you tell that you were part of the unit testing for AP, GL, taxation, asset accounting modules. Not completely basic topics. Take certain topics like asset accounting, taxation, integrations and all. And then tell that you were part of UAT sessions. What did you do in UAT sessions? Tell that I was part of UAT sessions related to GL module, asset accounting module, this module. What did you do in the UAT session? Tell that how did your UAT session happen? If you say that I was sitting with the end users, now your project is talking about an implementation related to US. Then if you're telling that I was sitting with the end users and performing UAT, and then I can see that your project is related to US, or I might put a question, this client is from India. No, you will tell no, this client is from US. Have you been to US? Have you traveled US? You will tell no. Then how did you sit with users if you're not in US? Certain points out of flow, without knowing, without preparing thoroughly, we will speak out. We will speak out unconsciously, which will put us in trouble, which is very, very tricky to come out of those troubles. That will straight away lead to rejection, no questions asked. These are the simple, silly mistakes that will cost you losing an opportunity where you are supposed to be very, very conscious. You are supposed to be very, very careful. Right? So different areas that are possible in an implementation project you must be aware of, and relate everything to your level of experience. If you were really part of that implementation project, considering your work experience, what exactly you will do, prepare only those points, ignore about the remaining. Nobody cares about it. I don't want you to have I don't want you to have knowledge on activate methodology. I don't want you to have knowledge on SAP methodology. What are the phases? What happens in each phase? I'm not interested in it. Instead, I am more interested in knowing what you did in each of these phases. If you say that you were part of business blueprinting stage, what did you do at the business blueprinting stage? How did you prepare the business blueprint? Do you know the flowcharts of business processes? Have you prepared any flowcharts? Then you're telling, no, sir, I have not prepared any flowchart. Then how did you prepare blueprint? Your blueprint contains flowcharts, flow diagrams. Then if you're telling that you were part of business blueprinting and you're telling you do not know flowcharts, you have not prepared any flowchart or flow diagram, then you cannot say that you were part of a business blueprinting. And if I say, have you prepared KDS document? If you tell KDS, yes. If I put another question, what did you mention? What did you include in your KDS document? Then if you are silent for this, I understood the answer, I got my answer. If I say that what is the naming conventions that you have used for your configurations, how did you decide your naming conventions? Then if you are silent for this, I got my answer. Okay, then I might ask you, can you tell me the configuration process of automatic payment program? How did you configure? Because I'm not going to ask these questions in general. I am going to ask these questions based on your personalized experience. You're telling that you are part of an implementation. In your implementation, if you are saying that you configured automatic payment program, tell me with respect to your client, with respect to your project, what you did, on what basis you did automatic payment program configuration. Don't straight away go to APP configuration contains 6 steps, all company code, paying company code, payment method, all these kind of things. Instead, mention according to your client. What is your current client? For that client, how did you configure automatic payment program? How did you get the requirement? How many payment methods were there? If they had check, if check is there, did you prepare any functional specification? If yes, how did you prepare the functional specification? If they have online banking transfers, let's say bank payments, whether you were using SAP standard payment medium workbench DME, or you were using any customization process to prepare the payment file. If you're using DME, talk about DME. How did you configure DME? How did you fetch the information into the payment file? and how did you test this? What scenarios you considered in your automatic payment program? How did you prepare the config document? How did you prepare the testing? What scenarios you had in it? How did you provide the training to the user? Whether you had any problems during your UAT session or training session? These points you need to talk, but we will talk in such a way that as if you are making the other person who is sitting in front of you to configure automatic payment program. We talk in such a way that the other person, sorry, we talk in such a way that the other person wants to know automatic payment program. We are explaining them to configure automatic payment program. This is not the intention of your interviewer. Your interviewer knows how to configure automatic payment program. So his intention is not to know, his intention is not to create automatic payment program based on your instructions or based on your explanation. His intention is to know whether the way you are talking about automatic payment configuration or any other topic configuration, is it similar to how we do it in a real project or not? This is what they are going to verify, whether you are talking in a generic way from the project point of view or you are talking from a training point of view. Right? These points we need to mention. Similarly, the durations, the sequence of the project, location, activities, contribution that you did in each of your project, you need to list out. Apart from this, this is your point number one that you need to keep in mind. What projects you have there, you have listed in your resume. Each of the project, what is your contribution? You have to be very, very particular about it. If you have not worked on anything, please do not mention it. You have another column in your resume called knowledge or SAP FICO skill set. Then you will tell, I am familiar with, I know about baseline configuration, I know about new GL concept, I know about taxation, I know about product costing, I know about controlling internal order, AUC, everything you will mention before coming to your project. You will mention generalized skill set in your SAP FICO. This is because not everybody will get an opportunity to work on everything in a project on SAP FICO. If you are working on SAP support project, you're not going to work on complete areas of SAP FICO in the support project. Similarly, if you're working on any implementation project, you're not going to work on everything in the implementation project. Your work area is limited in the project, but your knowledge is not limited. You have not got any opportunity to work on, let's say, assessment distribution cycle in any of your project. Does not mean you do not know what is assessment cycle, what is distribution cycle. You are aware of it, but you did not get any opportunity to work on this for any of your previous assignments or for any of your previous project. So these kind of topics you will not be placing on any of your project. Instead, place them as your generic knowledge or generic skill set on SAP FICO. Okay, so that the person who is looking at your resume will get a positive opinion, because you're talking is generic, you're talking the fact, you're talking in a practical way. Otherwise, whatever you talk, whatever you explain, whatever I am looking at your resume are not in sync. If I get these kind of doubts in my mind while taking your interview, I will upfront feel that this is something like, the fake profile or the candidate seems to be proxy. I get these kind of questions, doubts in my mind, I will straight away reject. I will not be proceeding further, no matter how expertly you talk about the subject. Since I am doubting you based on the resume, based on the kind of explanations that you are giving, I'm unable to relate it. When I say I'm unable to relate it, I'm not able to get convinced that you really worked on SAP FICO. I'm not convinced. I'm going to say that rejected. So here I am rejecting because I'm doubtful that whether you really worked or not. Your resume is talking something, you're talking something else. They are not in sync. Because honestly speaking, most of the people who will go to interviews based on the training will not prepare, will not look at their resume completely. They do not even know what is there on the resume. Most of the people, this is the common mistake. They do not even look at what is here on the resume. For certain points in the resume, they do not even know what it is, but they will put all the points just to get the calls. The intention is that if you put these points, you will get calls in the market. You're adding certain points to get the calls, But when somebody is calling you, they are definitely going to ask you what it is. But we are ignoring that basic logic that if somebody is asking us these points, what are we going to answer? What are we going to tell? Because our focus is always on getting a call, but not clearing that interview or not convincing the person who is calling you. So these points we need to pay attention. These points we need to put more focus on. At the same time, if you're talking about any project, so you must be aware of projects. When I'm talking about projects, first one, if you talk about implementation project, second one, if you talk about rollout projects, third one, support projects, fourth one, which is currently running in the market, migrations, migration projects. Now, first, we should have a basic knowledge, basic understanding about what is implementation project, what will happen in any implementation project. Generic point you need to understand, which means in general, when somebody is talking about implementation project, people will specifically ask you, is this end-to-end implementation? When somebody is talking about implementation, they will specifically mention this term called end-to-end. Is this end-to-end implementation? You are telling yes, but we do not know what exactly is end-to-end implementation. And if you talk about rollout project, we must know what is rollout project, what exactly we will do in the rollout project. Similarly, support project, migration project. Now, in your resume, what kind of a projects are we projecting? Are we talking about implementation, rollout, support, migration, everything, or only implementation, support, rollout, or only implementation and rollout? Whatever the project that you have on your resume, make sure you are aware of that project life cycle or the generic information in general words about that project. You need not get into the SAP terminology. You need not go to, from the technical point of view, what exactly is a project, what will be done, we will do what, not required. Specifically look at that project from your experience point of view. You're talking about an implementation project. First, know how implementation project works. There are two type of implementations. One is your ECC implementation currently, the other one is S4HANA implementation. If it is ECC implementation, which methodology is used? If it is S4HANA, which methodology is used? According to your experience or in general as a FICO consultant, what we will do in the implementation project? You will gather the requirement and then you will prepare a blueprint. You will prepare the configuration, testing, training, roles, all these kind of things until the understanding or until the gathering the requirement, until going live. Until going live, what exactly happens and where and all as a FICO consultant we will be involved, what activities we will provide or what activities we will perform in an implementation project, you need to list out. Now, if you look at Google, if you look at any other sources, you will get to know the information in a generic way. You are going to get generalized information, but you are not asked any question in a generic way. Your question is always personalized. Tell me what was your contribution or what did you do in your implementation project? But instead of answering what you did in the implementation project, you are telling me what is happening or what will happen in the implementation project. The kind of answer that you are giving reveals me that you did not understand what I am asking. You have not understood my question. My question is very clear that what was your role in your implementation project? Your answer is supposed to be what was your contribution or what exactly you did in your implementation project. Instead, you're talking about implementation project means there are SAP methodology, Activate, SAP, ECC, we use this, S4HANA, we use this. In Activate, you have these many stages. In ASAP, you have these many stages. My question is not to know about it. My question is to know about, you said that you worked in an implementation project. My question is very clear. In that project, what was your contribution? So I wanted to know your implementation knowledge, your implementation experience from your previous project. All right. So unconsciously, or you are in a mindset that you have not worked on any project, so you are telling me in a generic way, so which is giving me an indication that you have not worked on implementation project. Just like that, you are showing an implementation. Do not give these kind of opinions from our side. It is we who is giving all these kind of inputs to the interviewer to give the negative feedback. He is with a positive intention, he is with a good intention to give you an opportunity, but you are giving 100 reasons to reject. It is our fault. We are getting rejected even after putting our effort and all, not because of the interviewer fault. We feel that he is not asking me good questions, I answered everything, but they rejected. But if you practically come to know the reasons for your rejection, you will be shocked. You will be surprised to know that, okay, because of these silly mistakes I'm getting rejected, because you will never realize these simple silly mistakes, because our focus is always on the configuration, T code, path, table and all. But their intention, their expectation is something beyond this. They don't even care your config, they don't even care your T code table. They are expecting something from you. When you talk, they want to feel that you have practical, you have clear real-time understanding about SAP FICO. But when we talk, the other person would like to ask you, can I know in which institute you got it trained? Can I know who is your trainer? Can I know what is your training duration? Can I know is that a trainer is very good in training? These kind of questions I want to ask when you talk to me on SAP FICO. It is our mistake that the way we are talking is so bad that the other person is straight away thinking that you are a trained candidate. So it is your responsibility to make sure that the other person will not even believe, even if you say that you are a trained candidate. Give an impression, form an opinion in the other person mind that you are an experienced candidate. It is possible the way you talk to the interviewer, it is possible the way that you put your points forward, it is possible only when you answer the cross questions, it is possible the kind of examples that you are quoting in your interview. So it is all in your hand. But what we simply feel interview means, you need to prepare a resume, you need to upload monster here, there and all, you will start receiving the calls, or you create a new email id, take a new mobile number. If you are not getting the calls from this email id, this mobile number, change the email id, change the mobile number, change the resume format, upload another thing. But there are different ways HR will filter the resumes. There are different ways HRs will filter the resume. So we need to understand all these points. Only then it is possible that how you are going to proceed further, to make sure that you will not get caught anywhere, or you will be smart enough to handle things. If you are not smart enough to handle things, it is very difficult to cross the line of your interview. The only option most of the people will adopt after attending lot of interviews is proxy interviews, backdoor, online support and all. These are why people are getting into this, because they do not know how to manage 30-minute interview. Imagine you completed training for 3 months, you imagine you completed a training for 4 months, you took another 2-3 months for practicing, but still you are not able to manage 30 minutes in the interview. Then we need to really put a question mark, what kind of a preparation we are doing, and what kind of a knowledge, how confident, how comfortable we are with our skill set. It's just a matter of 30 minutes and we are nervous for this 30 minutes. We do not know what questions they are asking and all. For this, it is again straightforward. All the questions that they are asking in the interview is openly available in the social media. You go Google it, you will get the interview questions. You go YouTube it, you will get the questions. You ask anybody who attended interviews, everybody will give you questions. Let's say I attended an interview today in Wipro. Then if you ask me how was your interview, I will tell it is very good. These are the questions that they asked me. What are you doing with those questions? When you face same interview in Wipro, you are not the same person who is attending. The other person is the not same who is taking the interview. So it will never be the same. Now, instead of understanding what topics they are focusing, what kind of a question it is this a straight configuration question or any tricky question, conceptual question or scenario based question, we will focus only on, okay, APP they are asking, what exactly they are asking in APP, what kind of questions they are asking. We will not focus on this area. We will focus always on the config. The moment somebody says you prepare for APP, you will open FBZP F110, all company code, paying company code, these settings, F110, parameter, proposal, payment, printout, over. But when you get a question on APP, when you're in the interview, you will be blank. I do not know what it is. I'm hearing this for the first time. It is your mistake that the way you prepared is wrong. Right? The kind of preparation that you are doing, like the opinion that you formed in your mindset when it comes to an interview, should get changed first. Do not consider this as an interview. Instead, consider this as an interaction with the person who is knowing about SAP. The person who you're talking to in your interview is already working on SAP FICO. So he must be aware of what he is asking, and he must be in a position to judge or decide whether your knowledge is right or wrong based on your explanation. Now, considering the other person who is already working on SAP FICO, make sure your explanation is convincing enough. You're not talking to somebody who is new to SAP who will say okay for whatever you tell. You're talking to somebody who is already working on SAP, who is going to decide whether you are capable enough or not to work in a project. So if this is your requirement, your preparation is also in such a way that you will be able to convince the other person who says that okay, you can work on my project, or I can mold you, I can train you to suit or to fit in my project. So you have to give that confidence, that comfort zone to the other person that you have the knowledge and you can be fine-tuned. So if you are able to focus at this level, it is very easy to clear your interview. You don't have to think, you don't have to worry about it at all. But instead, if you are going in a different way, it is practically not possible. Even if you attend 10, 20, 30 interviews, everywhere you will get the same result. We will not understand why we are getting rejected. Most of the people will face the same problem. They attend the interview, they talk everything properly, but the result that they receive everywhere is negative. They do not understand why they are getting rejected. There may be some small silly mistakes which they will not be able to understand, they will not be able to know unless and until they speak to the right person, unless and until they have the right guidance, right information. Because you are not aware for what reason you are getting rejected. According to you, whatever the questions that they are asking, you are able to answer, but still they are rejecting. Why they are rejecting? If you are getting rejected in all the interviews, first thing that you should do is stop attending interviews. You attended 3 interviews, you attended 5 interviews, you are getting rejected. Don't attend 6th interview, stop it. Analyze what was your performance in your 5 interviews, what kind of a questions they were asking, how you are answering. And you need any opinion, or you need any preparation, or you need to change anything from your resume, you need to add anything additionally on your resume, or the way you are explaining, is it convincing enough or not? Unless you talk to somebody, unless you discuss with somebody who can properly, who can rightly guide you, it is not possible to clear. Because whoever we normally talk to, we don't talk to the people who will actually provide you the right solution, who will actually give you the right direction. Normally, let's say I am in search of a job like you. I am also not working on SAP FICO. I learned SAP FICO. Now I started giving my interviews. Let's say today I gave an interview for Deloitte, and then they asked all the simple questions: what is document splitting? What is APP? Have you worked on integration? What are the new GL concept? Tell me the changes between ECC to HANA. You know, asset accounting. Have you worked on taxation? I said, okay, all these questions I answered. I am convinced that interview is very simple, but I got a negative email stating that unfortunately we will not be proceeding with your candidature. We wish you all the best for next time. Now I do not know why I got rejected, because according to me I did well in my interview. Now I will talk to somebody that the interview was very good, but I still got rejected. They will tell, Deloitte, they are doing like this only, they are rejecting everybody, they are taking interview for time pass. My friend also attended like this. Instead of telling why, instead of asking you what did they ask, how did you answer, they will tell, yes, my friend also told me he also got rejected like this. Now you are attracted to these kind of conversations, from where you will clear your interview. You are not coming to know where you are going wrong. You are not even able to understand why you are getting rejected. If the other person wants to guide you, he must know what was your interview, what was your question, what was your answer. Only when you speak out, the other person can guide where you went wrong. If I do not know, if you do not speak up openly, I also cannot help you. I am also helpless. I will ask you, how was your interview? If you tell me after attending your interview, you tell it was very good, sir. They asked all the basic questions, whatever we discussed. I answered everything well. Then you get a remark stating that no, you are not selected. Then you have to tell that these kind of questions that they asked, this is how I answered. Then it is possible either for me or for anybody to suggest or to guide, to propose any solutions or recommendations that no, you should not talk like this, you should talk like this. Unless you speak up, unless you explain what exactly is happening, it is not possible. It is very difficult for us to clear the interviews. Then you have to depend on your luck, depending on the other person's mood. Sometimes even if you do not talk much properly, they will tell that okay, selected. So don't depend on the luck, instead depend on your subject, depend on your skill set. Make sure you prepare in such a way that whosoever is taking your interview, the possibility is more that you will get selected. Be confident, be positive, make sure your preparation is in a right way to clear your interview. Otherwise we will end up getting negative result, how much ever you put your efforts, because your effort is wrong. If your effort is wrong, the result will also be wrong. If your efforts are right, your results will be correct. Pay attention on this. Make sure you will start your preparation from here. First, you need to know what is the level of experience that you are showing. Based on that, make a resume. Decide what is your current organization, how many projects, what are the roles and responsibilities in your project, and make sure you have a clear draft on your profile. When I say clear draft on your profile, if you're talking about your experience, do not hesitate to explain confidently about yourself. Explain confidently right from your introduction. Whatever you say, my name is Ajay, I have 4.6 years of experience, I am currently working in ABC Consulting, I am now working for a support project of ABC client whatsoever. Go in a flow, make sure you cover all the key points, important points, so that the other person will not put cross questions. You're talking something, but I'm not getting what I want to hear from you. So what I will do, I want to know certain points when you explain. If you're not giving me those points which I wanted to hear from you, I will put cross questions. Most of the times, even though you explain about yourself, even though resume is in the hand of the interviewer, they will still ask you, have you worked on any implementation? For which client you did implementation? What was your role in it? They are asking you these questions because you did not tell these points in your introduction. If you would have told all these points in your introduction, they came to know from your explanation, they will not go to these areas. If you skip these points, they will hold those points only. Whatever you skip in your introduction, whatever you skip in your explanation, only whatever you are leaving alone, whatever you are skipping, only those skipped points they will pick, they will put those questions back. Whatever you leave will come as a bouncer to you. But this is another reality, another secret that interviewers will follow. If you have really worked, why are you hiding telling me? If you're confident, why are you hiding? If you worked on implementation project, tell me that you worked on this project implementation. Because along with me, if I'm taking your interview, I know that what is the reality, ground reality. You also know the ground reality. I am also aware of the ground reality. The HR who is present with me is also aware of the ground reality. But make sure you're not giving me any chance to catch you or to put a remark. Talk in a confident way, in a comfortable way, that I will be saying, okay, this candidate is fine. Because I have to decide based on your 30-minute discussion, based on your explanation in that 30 minutes. Don't give me any chance to find a remark in that 30 minutes. Preparing for this 30 minutes in a confident way, explaining in a convincing way is not a big task. It's very simple if you talk practically. You see it from practically, it is very simple. You don't need to practice. If you practice for every topic, you may have to sit for 30 minutes, 1 hour to do the config itself. Now here in 30 minutes, you need to talk about everything. In fact, it is more easier to prepare for your interview than preparing for your configuration. But how you're looking at this point from interview perspective matters a lot. What is your mindset? How you are looking at it? First of all, are we aware how your SAP FICO interview happens? What will be the expectation from an interviewer, and what is supposed to be your projection? How you are supposed to talk? What points you need to mention, and how you need to manage on the areas where you are not strong, where you are not aware of it, where you are not comfortable with. If you are aware of these points, it's very easy to clear your interview. But since we do not even try to pay attention on these areas, we blindly prepare as if we know everything about interview preparation for SAP FICO, we go and get rejected. So which should not happen, because if you're attending multiple interviews, you are getting rejected most of the places, will lower your confidence level, will create an impact in your mindset that I do not know anything in SAP FICO, I don't think I will get a job in SAP FICO. Don't get these kind of negative thoughts. Do not attend your interviews unless you are ready, unless you are convinced. It's not about time, it's not about duration, it's about your confidence, it's about the skill set that you are developing. You are upgrading yourself, you are learning new things to make sure that you will not suffer in future. When you talk, the other person will get convinced. Clear? Any questions on this so far?
Sir, I have a question regarding the asset accounting. Uh, I mean, as far as the asset accounting is concerned, like we have pretty much hands-on experience on it. But when the question comes and the AUC, asset under constructions, so we have the basic knowledge. But the thing is, when the interviewer get, dive deep into this topic, at the time the real problem arises. So, is there have any way that that we can show only asset accounting but ignore the asset under construction in the interview? Is there have any other way?
No. For this, the only option is when you're talking about asset accounting, first, do not talk about SAP asset accounting. First, try to understand in general asset accounting. Okay. How your asset accounting does, how you are going to value your fixed assets, how your depreciation is getting calculated. This is one way. After that, what are the different transactions that are used in the asset accounting? How you are going to purchase an asset, how you are going to transfer an asset, how you will post depreciation on asset, how you will scrap the asset, how you will sell an asset, how you will calculate profit loss on the asset. Similarly, if you are purchasing an asset which is not ready to be used, in short, AUC asset or capital work in progress, CWIP asset, how you are going to treat this. Now, the intention of your interviewer is not to check your configuration knowledge, is only to check your business process understanding, whether you are aware of the concept of AUC or not. You are purchasing an asset under construction. For asset under construction, whenever you purchase it, first of all, this asset is not ready for use. When the asset is not ready for use, if you are not using an asset, you are not depreciating an asset. Depreciation is when you are using an asset. AUC is not ready to be used. If AUC is not ready to be used, AUC will not be depreciated. On the AUC asset, there will be no depreciation. Now, if your asset is already purchased under AUC state and it is to be used in future, for you to make this AUC asset in a usable condition, you need to add certain modifications to it, or you need to add certain value to it, by way of repairs, by way of any other thing. So how do you add additional value to the AUC asset which will make it function? Let's say you're adding an additional functionalities to it, or you're adding additional cost to it. How do you capitalize the additional expenses to the AUC asset? You need to understand what. Take one example. Let's say you take a simple, let's say you take a simple one. You purchased a laptop which is in used condition, but the keyboard is not working fine, but laptop is working fine. There is a problem with the keyboard, the mouse pad is not working, or body is not good. You purchased a laptop, then what you are going to do, this laptop is not ready to be used, you need to replace the body, you need to replace the keyboard. You will add the keyboard to it, you will add the body to it. Let's say keyboard and body are costing you additional amount. The AUC asset, whatever the laptop that you purchased used, for which you are going to add additional cost called your keyboard and the body. These two you are capitalizing. These two you are capitalizing to the AUC asset. Now the AUC value will be loaded or will be increased with the additional cost. How this additional cost is loaded to the AUC? There, what ways are there? Option number one, you can use internal order. Option number two, you can use WBS element. Option number three, without internal order, without WBS element also you can do it. If you are using internal order, how do you load this value to the asset? So you will be capturing the cost into the internal order. How do you capture the cost in internal order? You will be settling internal order to AUC. How this internal order is settled with AUC, and then you will settle AUC with final asset. How this is happening? If you tell these points, whatever I told now, more than enough. Nobody will go in depth. They just want to know the process steps that you're talking are valid and are in the same sequence that are executed in any project. But apart from this, what we will go to config. Correct? Point number one, you will
Yes, sir.
start create asset class with in that you put line item settlement, and you don't create any account determination. These points, who is asking you? Who wants to know this? Nobody wants to know this. They wants to know the process of AUC. You tell me the business process, I will give you the configuration document. After recruiting you, I will give you the configuration document. Look at this configuration document, you please configure it. But I cannot make you understand the process of AUC. Correct?
Correct,
I
sir.
can make you configure AUC by giving you the configuration document, even when you're in my project. But I cannot make you understand the process. So I want to see your process understanding, not process configuration. Because when you talk about the process, even if you know 50% of the process, practically, you will be able to manage confidently, comfortably. Because when you're talking to anybody, if your points are valid, if your points are practical, nobody will put any cross question. Even if they put cross question, for every cross question you will have the answer. That is how you will get the cross questions. The way you answer, the similar way you get the questions. If your answer is irrelevant, the cross question is also irrelevant. Clear?
Yes, sir. Sir,
So
you
I'll be
asked
talking
a
about
question.
these points.
Yes, yes.
From tomorrow onwards, we will be talking specifically about how exactly your interview is going to happen, what points you need to prepare, how you need to talk. Only these points I will be focusing full week of this, so that you will have a clear picture about what exactly is the expectation in the interview, what exactly you need to prepare, what exactly you need to talk. Okay, yeah, go ahead. You're asking something.
Sir, you asked a question that on what basis we use the naming conventions for the configuration. So, what is the answer for this?
You will discuss with the client. Let's say you're creating something like account groups. You're creating account groups in GL. Your account group is a 4-digit alphanumeric code.
Yes, sir.
Right now, how do you decide? Or let's say I may simply put, you have you worked on chart of account? You say that yes, I created chart of account. Can you tell me the config? You will tell there are three types of chart of account: operating country, group chart of account. Operating country, group chart of account, everything is created in OB13. Operating is assigned in OB52 or OB62. Your country is also assigned in OB62. Group is assigned to operating chart of account. Your GL account can be 10 digits. Language can be English, automatic creation and all. I'll put a simple question. How many account groups did you create in your previous organization? You will be blank. You're getting my point? You will tell all these points. I'll put a simple question. Can you tell me how many account groups you created in your chart of account? Do you have any instant answer for it? Any figure running in your mind?
No, sir.
No, right? But all the other points you are able to explain without even taking a breath, non-stop.
Correct, sir.
Even if you go at super fast, I can make you a goods with one single question. Even if I push, you will not move. I can put such kind of a questions also in the interview. but it depends on what you're talking, how you're talking. In interview, normally what we talk in such a way that we project overconfidence. I ask a simple one-liner question, but you're giving me a theoretical, big, lengthy answer, which I don't want. According to my question, according to me, I am expecting a one-liner answer, but you're giving me a big descriptive answer. Obviously, I will not be happy with it, correct?
Yes, sir.
So these kind of points we need to think. Like when you're preparing about any topic, you need to think about the topic in a different way. If it is the casual way of explanation, we don't need any explanation for it. We don't need any specific preparation for it. Everybody will be able to talk by default. Am I correct? Whether you prepare for interview or you don't prepare for an interview, if I ask you about chart of account, the points related to chart of account, types, configuration and all, you will automatically talk. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But if I put any additional questions, if I put any cross questions from the asset accounting, what can be, sorry, from the chart of account, what can be certain questions that I might ask? If I ask these kind of questions, what will be your answer? It is not that somebody is asking you these questions. It will increase your knowledge. It will make you think different way. It will make you think in a different way so that you will try to find out the different answers. Somebody is asking you on what basis you defined number of account groups. What is the naming convention you created? Then if you're silent for these questions, this represents you have not worked. If you're answering for all these questions because you practiced 3-4 times chart of account, you are able to answer. But if you work, or if you see, if you at least know about how these are used in a real environment, you will be able to easily manage. Correct? First,
Correct.
we have to know that how we need to manage. This 30-minute managing is not a big deal if you know things in a correct way. So those points is what we need to understand in a right way, so that there is no point of getting confused. There is no point of getting nervous. Okay.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, then let me stop this recording. We will connect, or we'll
Sir, I had
continue
one
this
question.
discussion tomorrow. If you have any questions, I'll take tomorrow.
Okay, sir.